Hey, good morning, everyone. I'm Sarah Mitchell from Helping Babies Sleep. I'm a sleep consultant with 8 years of health education university training and 5 years of helping parents get their kids to sleep. And today I'm talking to you about the 3 to 2 nap transition, which happens generally anytime between 7 to 10 months. And I've had a lot of questions about this nap transition over time, and my blog post on this topic is one of my most popular hits. So I know there's a lot of questions out there, and as you join, please feel free to enter your questions in the comments, and I'll try and address all the questions by the end. So, gosh, this is a frustrating one, this 3 to 2 nap transition. So let's talk about when it's time for this transition to occur. So this transition should occur naturally when your child starts to lengthen her awake times. Awake time meaning the time from when she's awake to the time where she's back asleep. When those start to lengthen, so she can comfortably stay awake for longer periods of time, then you are kind of going to end up squishing out room for the third nap of the day. So when her awake times lengthen, and the other thing that happens is that her naps start to get longer. So they generally go over an hour, or they total 3 hours. The 2 naps total 3 hours for the day. Essentially, when those two things happening, the lengthening of the awake time and the lengthening of the naps, you squeeze out room in the day for that third nap. Now that third nap is generally a cat nap from about 5 months on, 5, 6, maybe even 7 months if you're still having it, sometimes even 8 months if you're still having 3 naps. That third nap is a cat nap. It's generally no more than 30 to 40 minutes. And it can be a hard nap to get a child to settle for. By the end of the day, they're fussy, they're kind of tired, and sometimes it takes 30 minutes of fussing to get your child to sleep 30 minutes. Don't take that fussing as a sign that she's ready to drop that nap. That's not it. It should kind of happen naturally that you end up in somewhat of an awkward position where, let's say it's, she's 7 months and she's waking up from her last nap at 3:30. Then you're kind of going, oh gosh, is this 5:40 put down for our next nap? Is that nap or is that bedtime? So my program, the way I teach my clients, it's about awake times, right? I don't have a fixed schedule where 9 o'clock is the first nap, 1 o'clock is the second nap. I don't work like that. I just feel like it kind of sets you up to fail. What happens on days when she's teething and she's taking shorter naps or just taking shorter naps in general? So I like to teach a flexible schedule that really focuses on awake times. So I'll include a link to my sleep summary by age, which shows you how many naps they should be having by age and how many hours of total daily naps that they should be having by age. So you're still going to be using those flexible awake times. So let's run through those what they are. So at 7 months, we're talking about 2 hours and 45 minutes max to be back asleep. By 8 months, that can be around 3 hours, 9 months, 3 hours, and then 10 to 11 months, it starts to stretch between 3 and 3.5 hours. There's some variability there. And part of that is based on how nighttime sleep is going. Because you can imagine that if you have a child that's sleeping solidly through the night, let's say for 11 hours without any waking, she's definitely going to make those longer awake times, right? She's going to go to the max. But if you have a child that's waking up more frequently or taking shorter naps, she might not make it to the max. So she might have less than the maximum awake time. Remember that those are maximums. The other thing about the awake times is they'll always be shortest in the morning from now until she drops her nap or until she goes to 1 nap. That awake time in the morning will always be shorter. So for example, a 7-month-old might stay awake for 2 hours before her first nap, and then maybe 2.5 hours before the second nap, and 2.5 to 2:45 before that third nap, okay? So recapping on that, don't assume that because she's fussing for the third nap that she's ready to drop that nap. There's some timing issues at play. The signs that she's ready to drop down to 2 naps kind of happen naturally, where she's sleeping for longer periods, over an hour for each nap, or hitting that 3-hour ideal time just with 2 naps itself, and her awake times are lengthening in between. How do you know when to lengthen awake times? So if you have a good sleeper already, so where your put downs have been going well, and now they start to change, she's taking longer to fall asleep, or she's crying more, that's when you want to try and test the awake times and move her, maybe try your put down tomorrow 10 minutes later and see how that goes, right? There's a little bit of trial and error between 7 and 10 months. here's one general rule that I have to help you with that third nap, whether or not it's happening. So one, remember that no nap transitions are really black and white, okay? They take place over a couple of days to weeks. If you find that your nap's gonna fall after 5:30, then it becomes bedtime. Any nap before 5:30 is a nap. That'll be your third nap. But any put downs after 5:30, that becomes your bedtime. And I know you might be panicky thinking, oh God, if I put her down at 5:30, she's gonna be awake like super early. So here's the thing, kids who go to bed early wake up early, and kids who go to bed late also wake up early. And the key with this nap transition is keeping them well rested, right? If you don't keep them well rested, you start to fall into this overtired cycle. And it can happen after a couple of days of not getting enough naps or staying awake too long before bed. And when you're overtired, it takes longer for you to fall asleep. You have more risk of night waking and early morning wake up. So what I commonly see is, let's say an 8-month-old that has gone down to 2 naps. They're finishing up that third nap by like 2:30, but bedtime is still 7 o'clock. So from 2:30 to 7, she's awake. It's just too long for her age. And the consequence then is you've got these 5 o'clock wake ups, okay? So if you can bring that bedtime earlier, that can help. That being said, this age is quite complicated because of teething. There are so many teeth that are gonna come in between that 8, 9, 10, 11 month period. And teething is one of the things that causes early wake-ups. Think of early wake-ups like this. So anything before 5:30 really is kind of an early wake-up. If it has the 5 in it, anything after 6 is fair game, but anything with the 5 in it is really rough. So when your child surfaces from a sleep cycle that are lighter in the morning, they are distracted by the discomfort in their teeth, which prevents them from relaxing back down into sleep. Okay, teething does that. The other thing that does that is like being overtired. So again, that long awake time before bed, she surfaces and she's like, why am I still awake? I don't want to be awake, I want to be sleeping, but it's just hard for her to settle down. Motor development, so learning a new skill, walking, crawling, pulling to standing, it can also cause early wake-ups. It can also cause middle of the night wake-ups where your child is awake for like an hour in the crib, seemingly content, kind of talking, playing. Those are also caused by motor development, and they're just distracted by their new skill, excited about it, and that prevents them from relaxing back down into sleep. And then the fourth thing that can cause an early wake up is habit. So maybe the teething caused her to wake up at 5 o'clock repeatedly, and now her body's kind of adjusted to that time. And that can be tough, but there's a technique called wake to sleep. It's on my blog, I'll include the link. It's a technique to kind of alter that habitual wake up time. Okay. Where are we here? Let me grab my notes so I can remember all the things that I wanted to talk to you about today. All right, so basically, right, it's not a black and white transition. It's going to happen over a few days to weeks. You may have to push her a little bit when you're stuck in that awkward stage. By that awkward stage, I mean where you're calculating your wake time from the last nap, and it comes that the last put down is like 5:30. That's awkward, right? Or 5:15. Is that a third nap? Or are you getting into bedtime? And is that bedtime too early? Because 11 hours of sleep, technically, she might be up earlier, but then keeping her awake too long won't work either because that will perpetuate the early wake-ups. So in those situations, I want you to work on your first nap of the day and pushing that a little bit later. So you can see how, there's a cascade effect that will happen. So if you've got your first nap and maybe she's staying awake, maybe she's 7 months with a maximum awake time of 2 hours and 45 minutes, but she's staying awake for 2 hours before that first nap. So that's going to put your first nap here, your second nap here, and then your third nap down there. But if you can push that first nap later in the morning to like 2.5 hours, that will push that first nap later, and that pushes the second nap later, and then it squeezes out that third nap. The other thing, this is really important, the other thing that has to happen is your child has to take naps that are longer than 45 minutes. You're aiming for 1.5 to 3 hours of naps during the day. And if you're only getting 1.5, that means you're getting 12 hours of sleep, right? On my awake chart, I want you to look at the total 24 hours of sleep that she needs. That's your telltale answer. If she's getting 3 hours of naps, that's great. But if she's getting 1.5, she's got to be getting more at night. If your child is only taking 45-minute naps, you've got something else at play. And naps are always tied to nighttime sleep. So, maybe that she has a sleep crutch, a pacifier, or she's rocked or nursed before bedtime. So when she surfaces from a 45-minute nap cycle, She looks for that same feeling of relaxation that she got from either sucking on the pacifier or being held to help her relax down into sleep. And usually you correct those kind of sleep crutch issues at bedtime rather than naps. You do bedtimes first where the drive to sleep is the greatest, and then work on naps the next day. So there's another telltale sign, right? You won't be able to make that 3 to 2 nap transition until you're getting longer naps, and maybe that includes doing some sleep training. All right, I had a couple questions here the other day from my group. Okay, Kate, she says, my daughter is 10 months. She's been getting up at 5:30 or 5:45. She goes to bed at 7. She has 2 naps, which are an hour and 20 minutes each. The last nap ends around 3. But what do I do? Is 11 hours enough sleep? It was a bit of a, because the time change was in there, I think that's a bit weird, the numbers, because she went to bed at 7 and she's getting up at 5:30. So that's 10 and a half hours of sleep. And I find 10 and a half actually not enough. It's funny, you really need 11. So what does she do here? So she's getting 2 hours and 40 minutes of naps, which is great. So that indicates that, you know, she's connecting sleep cycles. She has the potential. And if she's worried that if she puts her bedtime earlier than 7, that she'll be up even earlier. But I would try to put her to bed earlier, because if she's waking up at 3, that's a 4-hour wake time before bed. So I would even try like 6:30, making that a 3.5-hour awake time for your 10-month-old, and see how that goes, if that can shift things at all. A little bit earlier. And then the next question was from Val in Israel. And, oh shoot, I didn't watch that down. She was just struggling in general with the 3 to 2 nap transition. So go back to my 3 questions. Ask yourself. 1, is she connecting nap cycles? Is she able to have longer naps during the day? 2, is my first awake time in the morning too long or too short? Can I make it a little bit longer to push the naps back? And then 3, anything after 5:30 is put down, and anything before 5:30 is a nap. Okay? And I know that's really scary. It won't be forever. We're just trying to keep her well rested. That is the main challenge of this 3 to 2 nap transition, keeping your child well rested so you don't fall into those early wake ups. And then the other thing that's confounding this nap transition generally is things like teething and motor development, which can both also cause early wake ups. Okay. Oh, hi, Rob Perron. That's so fun. I went to high school with Rob. Hello. Okay. Any questions at all before I kind of find that out? It is a tough one. You've got the blog post to refer to, and you're always welcome to post questions in my group, Ask the Sleep Expert. In that group, I answer general questions about baby sleep. I like to think of it as our Starbucks lineup. If I can answer your quick question quickly while we're in Starbucks, then I can probably answer it in the group. I don't answer the question, how do I sleep train my baby? Because when I work one-to-one with a client, my sleep training plans are 20 pages and it encompasses your entire day, your feeding, everything. And I just do not feel responsible posting that in a Facebook group. And I don't know your history and all that stuff. So, oh, here's one more question before we go. Michelle says, if they don't get the 11 hours overnight, do you give more nap time in the day to avoid overtiredness? Well, yes, you would like to see that. Remember, you're going to look at your chart and you're going to look through the 24-hour total and see if she's getting that. And do you give more nap time? Well, what would that look like, right? So then you have to ask yourself, is she having long enough naps? So if she's getting 10 hours and you're only getting like 45-minute naps during the day, well, you need to do some sort of sleep training there to get your naps to be longer by 10 months. Well, she's not 10 months. I was confusing that with someone else. But Michelle, you might want to tell me a little bit more about that. How old is she? And then how long are her naps? And I'm going to wait for a minute and see if you can respond to that. But naturally, you know, most kids who aren't getting enough overnight tend to try and recoup nap sleep time during the day. But if you've got sleep crush issues, then that can be more challenging. Okay, and she's not getting back to me yet. So, oh, here's another one from Amy. When giving a cat nap around 4:30, do you wake the baby up by 5 or let them sleep longer if they are wanting to? I love that question. Great question. So my personal opinion is that kids sleep when they're tired. And I only like to wake children up if I have proof that letting them sleep disrupts either their napping schedule or their nighttime sleep. So, you know, for your scenario, I would probably give her 45 minutes. So if she went down at 4:30, by 5:15, I'm getting a little nervous. And I have found that most kids will wake up at third nap at 45 minutes. Now, let's say I let her sleep and she woke up at 6:30 11:30, and then bedtime was really late that night because of that, and that cut into her nighttime sleep, then the next day, yes, I would definitely be waking her up. And that nighttime sleep is where you get that consolidated sleep. It's more important. It kind of trumps the nap sleep, so you want to get that instead. Great question. Okay, Michelle came back to me. So she's 6.5 months. Her first nap is 1 hour. The second nap is 1.5 hours, and the third nap is 30 minutes cat nap, which are great, right? So you're getting 3 hours of naps in there at 6.5 months. In general, 6.5 can be a little early, I think, to see that 3 to 2 nap transition. And so when you add that up with your 11, you're getting 14 hours of sleep. Oh, you're saying she might not be getting 11 hours of sleep. I think that it sounds like your schedule is fine. There's nothing really to worry about, unless you can tell me that there's something else going on there. I think that sounds pretty good. Okay. I think that's about it. Thanks for watching. See you later.